I am all about optimizing my time. So let's today talk about speeding up the pattern drafting process. And we're not talking about speeding it up to compromise things. We are talking about speeding it up while still creating those dream clothes that you're gonna love and are going to fit you perfectly as well. The beautiful thing about pattern cutting is the options are endless. You get to decide whether you're creating something that's a column shape or something that's like super floaty and got so much volume to it, or whether you're doing pointy edges on your collars or whether you're rounding those corners on the collars. You get to decide what works for you and what works for your style. But this can also be a bit of a curse, especially if you're like me and you find those smaller decisions harder to make, like which color fabric should I use? Should I do it like this or like this? Would it be better if I made a skirt that's floaty or that's really fitted? Like, these things can be tricky, right? Especially when we have this unlimited availability that comes with creating your own sewing patterns. So my first tip to speed up the pattern cutting process is to know your style. And we have created a blog, which as I'm recording this, we are creating a part 2 as well, around knowing your style. You're going to do an audit of your wardrobe. So that means you're going to look at which pieces you really like, which you don't. So by the end of it, you're going to know which colors work for you, which silhouettes you like, whether you like more of a voluminous silhouette, whether you like more of a column like, whether you like more of a feminine, more of a masculine look. You're going to go through and really know what works for you and what doesn't in this blog post. So have a little look. We also have a free download. So by the end of it, you're going to have a Canva template, which means you're going to know, one, exactly what items you're missing in your wardrobe to suit your lifestyle, and two, and those should go at the top of your to make list, two, you're going to know what look works for you, what silhouette works for you. You're going to have a blueprint to know what you want to create when you're pattern cutting your own clothes. So now we've got really clear on our unique style, we're going to choose an item of clothing to create. So to then speed up the pattern cutting process, now what we want to do is draw that design. Like, even if you found a picture on Pinterest and you're like, I've already found the picture, I have it right in front of me, please draw that design. Why? Because when we're drawing it, it's making us really consider how it's working, how long we want something, how big we want something, whether we want to change something on it. And there's various different ways you can draw your own clothing. It might be digitally, like here, I've been doing it on my iPad, or maybe it's in a little sketchbook. So sometimes I do little quick sketches. And it doesn't have to be anything spectacular. You don't have to be the next fashion illustrator. It's literally for you to think through the design. Like, I just scribble it on pieces of pattern paper sometimes. You can kind of see here. So it just gives me that chance to really think through my design. And one key thing I always find people forget at this point is how to get into that item of clothing. So as you're drawing it, please think of how to get into that garment. So we have that illustration of our garment. So now we come on to tip number 3 to speed up the pattern cutting process. And that is creating a pattern cutting to-do list. So here I literally have a really quick pattern cutting to-do list as to what I am going to do to create that sewing pattern of this garment here. Again, doesn't need to be anything special. It is you thinking through that process. So when you're getting to making that pattern, you're not going around in circles because you're thinking, oh, wait a minute, I should have pattern cut that before that, and then ending up with a piece of paper with a load of sticky tape on it where you've gone backwards and forwards. And if you're wondering how to go about creating that pattern cutting to-do list because you haven't heard of this idea before, I recommend checking out my free 60-minute pattern cutting masterclass. You'll find the link below for that, and you'll be able to really learn how to get started when it comes to the pattern cutting tools, how to create that pattern cutting to-do list, and of course, how to create your first sewing pattern from scratch. Now, tip number 4 could just be me saying, find some pattern cutting blocks and use them to create your own sewing patterns. But you may already know this, and I have an extra level of this to really speed up the pattern cutting process. And this is two-part. So the first part is to create pattern cutting blocks which represent the minimum amount of fabric you need to cover your body for different garments. And again, if you want to know more about this and how they work, the free masterclass is where to find out more. But where were we? So what you want to do is firstly create these to your size and shape. So I have these two here, which are specific to my size and shape. And not only that, these are specific to the fact I am currently breastfeeding my son as well. So I have these blocks here, but when I stop breastfeeding my son and my body goes back to a more normal size for me, then I will go back to my other blocks. So I have blocks that fit me at different stages of my life, or I have blocks that fit me in different ways depending on whether I'm creating an easy fitting garment or a close fitting garment. I have blocks for skirts, trousers, tops. Create those blocks for those key items you're creating over and over again. Now, the second part to this is to mark on those blocks key things you want to know. Like if you love creating crop tops, mark on where that crop height is going to be. And I've actually done it so my paper is cut along there so I can fold that up really, really easily. And other key things to mark on are where your bra comes, so that you're not going to create a top that doesn't cover up your bra. There's nothing worse than being able to see a bra a little bit all the way around a top. So mark on those points that are really key for your designing. It might be a dropped neckline that you always like doing. It might be that you always like to have like a V-neck down here or a round neck further down here. So mark those things on your blocks so you don't have to keep working them out every time you're creating new sewing patterns. Let's dive into tip number 5 and our last tip. So very often from my pattern cutting students or from people on Instagram or in the emails, I will be asked, how long should this be? How much do you recommend for this? Where should this sit on my body? What should that measurement be? And the thing is, a lot of the time, the tape measure is overrated. And actually, the thing we just need to do is measure something on our body, because all our bodies are different shapes and sizes. And over here, I'm all about creating clothes that are going to work for you, not a generic size, but your size and shape. So what I recommend doing for that is, once you've got those blocks that fit your size and shape perfectly, create a toile of that. And if you've done this process properly, you will already have a toile of that, because you will have needed to test the fit. Without doing toiles of your clothing, it's really hard to test the fit. And we all move in different ways. We all sit in different ways. We all have different postures. So there's only so much measuring you can do to create the perfect fit. Like I say, the tape measure can be a little bit overrated sometimes. Anyway, gone off on a side tangent there, but that's really valuable, useful information. And if you're keen to learn more about creating perfectly fitting clothes, I do have a couple of blogs around this, and I also have an in-depth program called Fitting Confidence that is well worth checking out and literally will be a game changer in terms of the comfort, the fit, how you feel in those clothes. So let's get back to that toile. So now you've got this toile that you have created, say for example for the bodice here. What you can literally do is try it on, and then when you're thinking, oh, I want to create a neckline that's going to be like a nice round lower neckline here, you can then get something like this water erasable pen and you can mark it on. You can use this like a sketchbook, but on you. If you want to lower the armhole, you can then mark it on you. If you want to mark on exactly where you want some straps to be, you can mark that on here. And as long as you're using either a water erasable pen or one that you iron out the markings of, then you can just use it again and again and again. Don't use something permanent, because this you want to be able to use over and over again. Use a water erasable pen or one of the ones you can iron at, so it's easy to use this again and just get off those marks really quickly, really easily, to create a blank slate again for your next design.